that, and they've got sharpened bamboo at the bottom.
Oh, so it's like Mortal Kombat. You're gonna uppercut a
Yeah,
tiger
yeah.
into the pit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Hello and welcome to Things We Talk About, a podcast where we have conversations that matter. I am your host, Randall Thomas. With me, always by my side, the man with the name of a bad guy from an anime, Lazarus Kane. What's going on, man?
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Okay. Is that sarcastic?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't like hearing it.
Okay.
It's just not original.
Because you're into the Japanimation, right?
Yeah.
That's like a thing for you.
Been a while since I've heard it called that. Yeah.
Japanimation?
Japanimation.
Yeah, that's what like they
Maybe
called
from
it.
the 90s?
Yeah, like with the Speed Racer.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
And then what was popular? Because Dragon Ball Z changed the name of the game, but there was something that was popular pre-Dragon Ball Z, post-Speed Racer.
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
I guess.
Yeah, it was. For me, anyway.
All right, so last episode we talked about opiates.
Opiates.
And today we wanted to talk a little bit about what?
Identity stagnation.
Now, stagnation. What is a stagnation?
That word.
Because I think of stagnation, like stagnation.com would be something I'd found in your internet history. It's a nation of stags. And I go to the website and it's a bunch of men and like...
For bachelor parties? It sounds like a company that specializes in either videos of bachelor parties or planning them.
Let's go there and find out.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you've got the laptop, man. It's your internet history now.
All right, so what do you mean by identification stagnation?
Right. So stagnation here, I mean, so like if you have a lake where the water moves, like because it's connected to a river or it feeds into a river or something like that,
sure.
Everything stays clear and fresh and fluid, right, and dynamic. But then a rock falls or some beavers come along or whatever, dam it up.
Yep.
And so then the flow stops and the lake sits. It doesn't move anymore. It doesn't change.
Some will say that when a tree falls and it blocks the river, that's a goddamn it.
There you go. Yeah. Insurance companies would. But the river gets scummy and it's like it stagnates.
Okay.
That's what that means. It's something that the normal flow of change has been halted to the detriment of whatever you're talking about.
Okay. Some piece of wood or whatever.
Yeah, and that can happen with lots of things like
that. Could be some wood or be a beaver. I mean, it could be anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like either side of that equation, So and that can happen with a lot of things. Like that's not just like rivers and lakes and stuff like that. That's ancient Rome stagnated, right?
Yeah.
Ancient Rome stagnated and then fell.
Okay.
It was more complicated.
Now, do you feel as if the United States has stagnated?
That is a huge question. I think there are parts of it that either are about to or just have, or something like that. There's definitely not as much dynamism as there could be or as that I would like. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who stagnate.
People who stagnate.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when we say identification, here we mean like how you see yourself. Like when you go to the mirror in your head.
Yeah.
What do you see?
Yeah, I read a book a long time ago. It was about looking at yourself and not sucking in your stomach and not like fluffing your hair and making a face. Because most people look in the mirror and they kind of like do a pose. Yeah. But that's not really who you are. That's you posing. Yeah.
I just had to unlearn that. It was rough. I'm still working on that.
What do you mean?
Not sucking in the belly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, the problem is because it causes your breaths to be shallow by default.
Okay.
And so if you end up in a situation where your breathing would be shallow, it's made all the more so.
So by being shallow, your breathing becomes shallow.
Sure.
For putting your vanity as an importance in your life to the point where you lie about yourself to yourself.
Well, for me it was more the tightness in that like in the mirror, but the tightness in the stomach also produced a sort of like secure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I got a tightness in my stomach. Usually before I have to take a shit or like. The truth is like, because I got a gut, like it's not massive, but it's there, and
underneath it. Dad bod.
I have a little bit of a dad bod, yeah.
It's not a
But
little
underneath the dad bod, there is like, I guarantee you, there's a lot of muscle.
Sure.
in there. But
Well, Roosevelt was like incredibly strong. Theodore Roosevelt, he'd like wrestle bears.
I've punched bears and broken my hand.
Yeah, there you go.
So bring it on, Roosevelt.
At least metaphorically.
No, that's canon. We talked about that.
So
last episode.
so like the sort of people that are in the Atlas competitions, which is where people they like pull semis
Yeah.
and stuff like that. They've got kegs, not six packs, right? But they're all muscle.
Okay.
All muscle.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. They don't do it for vanity reasons. They do it because
For
for some reason,
power. Yeah.
it's fun to pull a semi.
Well, the more cut, yeah, there's also money involved, and fame. But so like the more cut you are, the less power you have.
Okay.
Not that someone
Well, thank you. I am very strong.
There you go. There you go. You sacrifice power for aesthetics is how that works.
Okay.
But anyway, so people grow, jumping back, people grow and change over time, naturally. We flow through our life like a river.
Yeah, just look at my hairline.
Yeah. You're the only one that brings that up.
I know, because it's funny.
I think you want to get there first, is what it is,
It's a race.
before anyone else brings it up. So yeah, and the problem is that sometimes the river that is our like psychological life stops flowing. We get complacent, right? We get to a point in our lives where we either get in a rut or we do the same
Okay.
thing every day.
Now, this could apply to someone who's worked the same dead-end job for X amount of years.
Sure.
And while they're content with it, they could potentially be doing a lot more with their life.
Sure. Well, so the thing is that there's a difference between contentment and complacency, and it is extremely different to tell the difference from the inside out,
Yeah.
right? Without sufficient like bad things happening or like a real invasive self-reflection.
And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people to understand, the difference between the two, because they look at people who are they see it black and white. You either are motivated or you are not motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're motivated, then you won't be complacent and you won't be comfortable because you're always going to be moving.
Yeah.
And then there's everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's simply not true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I got a story. For a period of time when I was in sales, I
Mm-hmm.
was at this company for about 4 to 5 years. And I was, at the time, by far the best salesperson they had on the team. And if you don't believe me, there will be, people that I know that they'll vouch for me. And
Because you've paid them too.
Yes. Well, more or less.
With your sales money.
So yeah, with my fraudulent sales money. So I had the supervisors, like supervisor come up to me and say, what are you doing? Like, what keeps you motivated? And I kind of shrugged my shoulders and said, well, I'm just, I want to make money. Oh, you must be motivated by money then. I was like, well, sort of. I mean, I want to do well and I want to succeed. And when I'm here, I'm going to work as hard as I can.
Sure.
Because that sounds like you're getting a little comfortable. I was like, well, I am comfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable when I'm at
I
work.
think he was grooming you for a higher position.
Probably. And I more or less told him subtly, like, fuck off. Like, I'm not.
I can't imagine that ever happening with you.
Yeah, telling someone to fuck off.
Yeah.
It's every day. So the guy tried to like corner me into calling myself complacent, and kept like throwing these words, like these sentences at me. You must be complacent. You must.
Well,
but
yeah.
I'm not.
Well, so yeah. So the thing is that sometimes you have to do that. You have to trick people into that realization because complacency is a lizard brain thing. Right? It is a defense mechanism that allows you, like, basically, if you have the ability to become complacent, then your lizard brain believes that you have found everything you need to survive. Not to thrive, not to enjoy life, but to survive.
Okay.
Right? And don't fuck it up. Right? And that's your lizard brain's job, is to make sure you don't. Like if you're a caveman, and that's the world that our lizard brain is still living in, if you found a routine that works, if you know that going to this tree to get this food and going to this place to do that hunting and stuff like that, if that all works, keeps you alive, don't switch up the formula because you might get eaten by a jaguar.
Yeah.
Or something. Or you might fall off a cliff, or you might eat poison berries or whatever.
But you feel it's bad to be comfortable, not comfortable, but be complacent.
Complacent.
Okay.
Yeah. So the reason is because it prevents you from knowing how much better things can be. There's or it prevents you from seeing how bad things are.
But in that same argument, it's like saying sometimes people take risks and they are motivated and they make things significantly worse than they were before.
True. Absolutely. 100%. That is the risk of trying. Like that is when you start trying to make your life better, it's sort of what you sign up for.
Or you like what you got.
Yeah. So what one of the phrases that I use is, if you're not fucking up, you're not trying hard enough. Right? Because you're not trying.
I mean,
to...
I see what you mean by that, but
yeah.
I mean,
that
could be applied in the wrong context in so many ways.
Oh, sure.
like my marriage.
you can fuck up without trying hard.
Yeah.
Without
I know all about that, man.
But
like watching the Patreon page before.
Right.
Before the
but
podcast
what I'm saying though is that again, well, like even then by your own statement, like you don't have to be trying to not be complacent to make your life worse.
I guess. Yeah.
Right. You could be complacent and not trying to
and
make
still
yourself
and still
not,
fuck up.
Yeah, and still fuck up.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure. But I think the likelihood, like taking a risk, it could make your life better, but could also make it substantially worse.
Right.
Whereas being comfortable and complacent where you are, your lizard brain, according to your words, your lizard brain's saying, don't fuck it up.
Yeah, but your lizard brain is not always your friend. In fact, in modern life, it is most frequently not your friend. In that, not any sort of friend that I think even you would consider using the word on. So the idea is that if you are complacent to the point where we're talking about like stagnation levels,
Let me clarify real quick. Lazarus doesn't like the fact that I have a lot of friends.
I don't have you. Yeah, your definition of friend is
that's what they call envy.
No. Anyway, I'm just far more selective. So yeah, so if you're to the point where we can say that you're stagnating or have stagnated, when bad things happen to you, you make no move to fix them. Right? They just sort of there's a high chance that they will just these additional bad parameters that are in your life now will just get added on to your life. You're not going to like fix it. And so you end up with all of the potential of like making your life worse from trying hard, right? And none of the opportunity to actually get better.
Okay.
That's the danger of stagnation. And so there's a webcomic page that I'm sure you've seen. And
which webcomic?
So it's not specific, like it is a comic. It's not from a specific webcomic, but
okay.
It's got a dog sitting at a computer, and it's like a cartoon dog, so it's like people smart. And the room starts burning, and the dog's like, "This is fine." And then the next panel, the fire starts to get worse and stuff like that. And it's like, this is fine. And then like basically the panel continues and the house keeps burning down. And
yeah, I mean, I get the reference, but that to me is maybe that's what you mean by complacency.
Yeah,
is that you ignore things coming at you.
Yeah, you it's not. Yeah, and so ignore suggests almost like you choose to do it, but in this case, you almost lose the ability to tell. Like, because you stop paying attention to the small things.
Yeah.
And so you lose the ability to see the big things because the big things are almost always composed of small things stacked on top of each other, right?
Okay.
So there's a follow-up comic to that where the dog, like, freaks out and, like, says, how did I let it get this bad? Like, right. And stuff like that. They shot a gorilla, for God's sakes. It's Harambe. Yeah. Anyway, so the idea is that contentment is fine, but but complacency feels like contentment, and
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And like your lizard brain will lie to you and tell you that
you're just being content.
Exactly.
But the truth is you're being lazy and complacent.
Yeah. Truth is, you're making your lizard brain's job easier. And like every other brain you have, your lizard brain is inherently lazy.
But I feel like there is a large part of the population that comes up with excuses all the time.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like those knee-jerk excuses are also part of the lizard brain's trying to be complacent?
Yeah.
Because I have known and had friends that came and went in my life that their life 10 years ago is just as bad as it is now.
Sure.
And I feel like if you're doing things right and your life should, at least you should be happier now than you were 10 years ago.
There should be some kind of upward slope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Whether you have more or whether it's just feel better.
Yeah. And if you you're like, oh, well, maybe they couldn't afford it. Like, not all of your problems require money to solve, right? There are...
Does make it easier.
It certainly, money makes everything
Right.
easier, you know. But
I got the same, to tell you about the friend.
Go ahead.
He and I have played in bands together many times over the years, and he's got a couple kids, and his son and daughter share a room, and they're always kind of like having to move last minute because they can't afford rent. So then all these people over here money, and he's in and out of jobs all the time, and it's always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah.
It's always, oh, well, my boss didn't like me, or oh, they were asking me to do things I didn't want to do, or they changed my schedule on me and I had to do other things and I couldn't make it in. But that to you is complacency, complacency.
Well, yeah, it's definitely symptomatic of complacency because you have that complete lack of introspection, right? It's sort of like someone who has a string of like 5 relationships that all end for the exact same reasons, and like the person in question always has like, oh, well, they were X or they were Y or something like that. And at no point do they consider that the one, parameter that was involved in all 5 was that person. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that each of these 5 other people in the relationships were perfect. We're not in some way in fault, but at the same time, you were also involved in that relationship, and you probably made a lot of the same choices, and you chose them for a relationship as well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, take some responsibility.
Exactly.
I have a philosophy that I kind of hold on to, that if something bad happens in your life, I'm sorry. And if something very similar happens again, I say I'm
less
sorry,
sorry,
but I kind of like cringe a little bit. And if it happens the 3rd time, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
Like if you keep getting in like abusive relationships, that's another topic. But if you keep going back to that, at some point, what do you say? What am I doing to put myself in this situation?
Right. So yeah, never, you never blame a victim or anything like that. But complacency, in fact, a lot of the reasons people end up in like actually like identifiably abusive relationships have less to do with complacency. The reason they stay in abusive relationships is often complacency, but getting in there is something different.
Sure, well, they feel like they can't do better.
Right.
Or that this is the best I can do, or I'm happy.
Yeah. So what complacency does is it prevents that. It almost categorically prevents that introspection of it. It allows you to exist in a world where you are not at fault for what is wrong with you, and that is an incredibly intoxicating and incredibly dangerous.
I was going to say
mindset.
Dangerous. Yeah. Right. To not, and I've said this on the podcast probably every episode, but personal responsibility is everything. Mm-hmm. Like if you can't take a step back in the mirror and look at who you are for who you really are, you got to change that.
Yeah, and so like, we just talked about opiates, right, and stuff like that, and the reason why people get on it. Like complacency, I would have no problem referring to complacency as a drug, right? Okay. Because it makes nothing hurts and everything feels, it makes everything okay.
Yeah, like painkillers.
It doesn't make everything good, but it makes everything okay.
Yeah, you lose. It numbs the pain.
Right.
It takes it away.
It numbs your life.
And it doesn't change your situation either. It's still going to suck.
Exactly. And it's going to get worse because you are not lucid enough to make the decisions, to make the hard choices, to make your life better.
Yeah, and that applies to not just someone on opiates, but most people who are complacent in any situation.
Yeah. And so that's really what I mean when I say.
Now, you mentioned victims earlier, like don't blame the victim. Of course you don't blame the victim, but you and I have had this conversation before off the podcast about the victim mentality versus being a victim of circumstance.
Correct.
Now, if you identify it as someone who is constantly the victim, these things are happening to me, these things that are out of my control are happening to me all the time. How does identifying yourself as a victim change your circumstance?
So identifying yourself as a victim is not the same as saying I am a victim. I think what you mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you mean is being a victim becomes part of their identity.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's one thing, because shit does happen to people all the time.
Yeah.
And that's out of their control. And that is, in essence, being a victim, but to make that part of who you are.
So the word I think you're looking for is martyr. Like... or
Yeah.
at least it's related.
Well, martyrdom to me is usually for a cause.
Well,
Whereas
but if so
being a victim, it's like it's just so you don't have to take
right.
responsibility.
If you say though, if say, like someone is being a martyr, it means like yes, someone can be martyred for a cause. Like it is easily said that Martin Luther King Jr. was martyred
Right.
for the cause of civil rights. It's often why when you have rights movements like that, why the leaders don't get shot and killed, because you end up galvanizing the movement instead of making it go away.
Right. I had that conversation with someone about Donald Trump, about how like I think people know better than to try to kill the guy.
Yeah.
Because that would make the the social climate right now so much worse.
Absolutely. So, whereas if you say, like Steve's being a martyr, you're saying he's playing up like a victim complex.
Right.
Right. Like, oh, I'm suffering, like, but I have to, it's on me, I got to do it, stuff like that. And that the martyr complex, can become part of someone's identity. That is a thing.
Yeah. And whether it's like whether they're wearing it on their sleeve or not.
Yeah.
It is something that comes up in their life. Anytime they're addressed with something they don't want to hear. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, this happened to me.
Yeah.
And therefore I am, the product of this.
Yeah. So there's a couple other conversations that could be brought into this. One of them is that one coping mechanism, not all coping mechanisms are good, are beneficial to the person using them.
Sure.
But drugs are a coping mechanism.
So I was going to say heroin.
Yeah, heroin is a coping mechanism. But one coping mechanism is to essentially to bring that into your identity, and then basically have it, you bring it up all the time, and then now you it's almost like a catalyst for complacency, because now you have an active excuse about why you can't improve things.
Yeah.
Right. And again, lizard brain, like, he's like, hell yes, right? And again, I don't think that people who act this way are doing it consciously.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, because the lizard brain exists pre-conscious thought.
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but people aren't that shitty to where they aren't introspective on purpose. Because I feel like everyone believes that they're introspective and that they can look at themselves outside themselves. Mm-hmm. But I feel like few people are. Does that make sense?
No, yeah.
Nobody's doing it on purpose.
No, almost nobody is doing it on purpose. I won't say nobody, but sufficiently.
And Randall Thomas speak.
Yeah,
nobody does it on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that you would say that nobody's doing it on purpose.
Good way to put it.
Yeah. I think that because the lizard brain exists pre-conscious thought, there is actually this sort of movement that's been going on for a while called mindfulness, right? Mindfulness training, which is the deliberately like introspection and really taking, thinking about what you're thinking, and not letting a lot of the like the destructive, complacent thoughts just occur.
Yeah.
On cycles,
it's like,
and we don't think about it. We don't notice them.
Yeah, a good example of that would be, it happens all the time at the gym, is that there'll be someone there who is attractive, and if you look around, half the people are spending the time looking at this person who's attractive. I don't think they're like being pervy about it.
Yeah.
But it's just an initial reaction. Mm-hmm. Whoa, legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you notice that you're doing it, because a lot of times you don't even notice it. Mm-hmm. And if you notice that you're doing it, you can be like, okay, well, I don't want to be a pervert.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the gym, it happens all the time. And that's one of those things where it's not really a thought. It's just a reaction to some base, lizard brain.
Yeah, it's a reflex, right? And so most of our thoughts are reflexive.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that they have no less impact on us and our demeanor and our psychology and stuff like that, just because they're reflexive and we don't notice them.
Yeah.
In fact, like I said, it's the little things that rack up into big things. It's those reflexive thoughts, or that's the stuff. Like if you lose the ability to be mindful, you lose the ability to hear destructive thoughts when they occur, then they're going to rack up in the background.
They'll take it as, I'm doubting myself, and I shouldn't doubt myself. Or just ignore it altogether.
Right. So like if you hear it, you be like, that's dumb, why did I think that? Because everybody has thoughts like that.
Yeah.
But like if you lose the ability to hear those sort of self-destructive thoughts, then they're still going to be in your head and they're still going to be affecting you. You just won't know they're there.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
What'll happen is you'll develop, your personality will incorporate them. And so instead of just having the occasional intrusive thought about how shitty a person you are, you will just
become a shitty
mentally
person.
see yourself as a shitty person.
Interesting. Is that, do you think, how a lot of depression occurs?
I think that's a lot, like a lot of like persistent depression and stuff like that.
Not clinical depression or like biological depression, but actual.
No, like a lot of the, so because it is biological depression and thoughts arise from biology, the biology can create these minor reflexive and intrusive thoughts.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so it's not like someone who is persistently depressed is not having depressed thoughts. Right, someone with PDD that's purely neurological is still having these depressed thoughts.
Okay.
And sometimes the thoughts are from it. Sometimes they're feeling this way, and then their thoughts turn. And
yeah. Well, I mean, I said it to separate the two.
Yeah. No. But what I'm saying is that they're functionally the same.
Okay.
It's just where they come. Like your mom died, right, or something like that. Not your mom, but your mom died, and you're depressed for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, because I don't think I'm on the wheel anyways.
Yeah, that's normal, right? That's normal versus someone who is just depressed for a year or 2 at a time.
Okay.
Right, has major depression because it's the way their neurology works. They end up at the same place.
You're right.
You know.
I mean, there was a time in my life, and not to spend too much on a tangent about depression, but there was a time in my life as a teenager, like a young teenager to probably 16, 17 years old, that I was incredibly depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to a point where I didn't like myself because I was so different in the way that I thought and acted than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And it took time to kind of make me realize, well, being different is probably a good thing. And then that difference of myself compared to everyone else became, well, I'm actually kind of better than a lot of people in a lot of ways. And then that sort of arrogance kind of leveled itself out and saying, well, everyone's a fucking idiot. We're just different varying degrees of idiot.
Sure.
And that's kind of how I was able to kick the depression.
Right.
Because I'm like, I'm not any more fucked up than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of like that reflection, though, that metacognition, that thinking about thinking, that's the kind of thing that you lose the ability to do when you're complacent.
Gotcha.
Because definitionally, when you are complacent, everything is okay. Right? And so if you are having these thoughts about how unhappy you are with how you're thinking, you are no longer complacent.
Now, one thing I've adopted, because I'm a huge complainer, as you know.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I adopt in my life is, even when shit happens, to find the silver lining.
Sure.
And now, would you find that to be in that same category as being complacent?
Not necessarily. It depends, because you could find a silver lining that is either not there or not a silver lining, right? Because it may be an excuse. Like, oh, at least my house isn't on fire. Like,
I used to hate that when people would confront me as like a teenager about my disability, and they'd say, "Oh, well, you could be in a wheelchair." It's like, so that makes my problems less valid.
Well, yeah, it's also like, back in the day when kids wouldn't finish their food or something like that. They'd be like,
the starving
kids in Africa. And I'm like, I never understood that, because I'm like, how does this change things? How does this help them? Like, I guess what they said, by the time I came around, that the underlying implication, I guess, had already been lost. But the idea is that you should be thankful for what you have, and you should eat, because you have, food on your plate.
Yeah, you could be born in Africa.
Yeah, you could have been born in Africa. So, but yeah, so again, like, if the food that you are eating is mildly poisonous, right? Mild to moderately poisonous, it's not going to kill you, but
over time it might.
It might, or you're just going to have effectively like persistent issues, like biological issues
constant
from
diarrhea.
it. Yeah, constant diarrhea,
right.
Or like joint pain, or partial blindness, or something like that.
It happens from TV dinners.
That would all get better if you stopped eating this food, right? You stopped eating this mild to moderately poisonous food. Okay. But
let's just call it hungry, man.
there are starving kids in Africa, right? So you keep eating the poisonous food. It's not a silver lining. It's something that you tell yourself to justify your complacent behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Sweet. Hey listeners, let me tell you about how to help us help you become more informed and more entertained.
Yeah, so go to our Patreon page and take a look at what we have to offer. We appreciate you joining our conversation and in the process helping us get better equipment, better content, and provide you with even more content.
Not only that, but Patreon has a tiered system of rewards that lets us give back to those who give more. We've got a ton of things planned as rewards, from unscripted before and after recordings of spontaneous conversations to conversations that try and get Randy to actually read something for a change, with interesting and hilarious consequences if he doesn't, to Randall's Rants, where I try to see just how easy it is for Randy to fly off the handle for basically no reason.
Here's a hint, it's pretty fucking easy. Remember, by becoming a patron, you are directly assisting in the growth and ability for us to move us one step closer to providing more and better content, and soon enough, do it full time.
Aw, yeah. So, to learn more, go to patreon.com/TWTAPATREON. That's patreon.com/TWTA Patreon to learn more about our goals and what we've got to offer.
Thanks for spelling it out for us, buddy. All right, so we're back. So we were talking about identification being stagnant and your identity not changing with the times, not changing with your situation in life,
Yeah.
being overly being complacent in general.
Yeah.
What you feel is dangerous.
Is dangerous. It is intoxicating and treacherous.
And you feel like the cure to this would be being introspective.
Yeah, it usually is. Because if you can evaluate why you feel the way that you feel things, and if your feelings on them are valid given what is actually going on in your life, and still you make no move to change anything.
Do you have an example?
Not prepared.
Okay,
but,
well, what about let's say a job situation?
Yeah.
And you're at your job, you don't like your job, but it's okay.
But it's okay.
Your bills are paid.
Yeah.
But you can't really buy things when you want to buy them. You kind of have to put money aside for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're surviving.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you feel about that?
Well, it's really relatable actually. But so the thing is that if that's cool for you, right? So like then, if you take a look back and you're like, well, it's okay that I actually that I have to set things aside and I don't have the freedom that I'd want. That should first of all stop you in your tracks, because that you'd want.
Yeah.
Well, you want that.
Well, let's say that he's fine.
Yeah.
That's what complacency is you feel
he's fine. Yeah.
with the situation. Like, yeah, you could do a little more, but you're fine.
Yeah. But you're fine. But the thing is like you could do with a little more. Well, what does a little more mean?
Hookers and blow.
Oh, like, so what I mean is like, what does a little more mean, and how much effort would it take for you to get that? And if the answer is not really a whole lot of effort, because it is a little more, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But you're always making excuses as to not put in this apparently not that whole lot amount of effort. Then you're complacent.
Okay.
Right? Because you're getting in your own way. You are stopping yourself from being happy.
Well, again, he's happy enough.
What does that even mean?
Well, something I was taught as a kid.
Which doesn't make it right. It just means you were taught it as a kid.
No, I know that. That's why the buffer's there. By a very intelligent man. He told me, you don't have to like your job. You just have to not hate it.
So there are two ways, at least two ways to view things. And it's you can either live to work or work to live. Right? And so people who live to work, they jump out of bed and they think about work when they're not at work, and they love what they do. If they don't, they may not be fun, but it challenges them. And like and if they don't have a position like that, it's bad times. Right? Like it's going to slowly grind away at them, and these people can become complacent by staying in jobs that don't challenge, that aren't meeting their psychosocial needs.
Right.
And so that's what complacency looks like for people who live to work. People who work to live, like your guy from your childhood said, well, you don't have to hate it. Well, then, because what he's saying is that as long as it makes enough money for you to do whatever you want outside of work, you're good to go.
So you wouldn't necessarily call it complacency for someone who works to live.
Right. If someone works to live and they were getting what they needed out of the job, but by your own definition, they're not, because they don't act with the freedom that they would like to have.
Well, that's a different example.
Okay.
Yeah, the one before was just a...
Okay. We moved on.
Yeah.
But even still, like, so like if you work someone, so then to rephrase,
Sure.
we know what complacency with someone who lives to work looks like.
Mm-hmm.
With someone who works to live, it's someone who stays in the same job despite it not allowing them to do the things that they want to do outside of work.
Okay. And where would you find yourself as Lazarus Kane falling under those two banners? Working to live or living to work?
I used to think that I worked to live, and then I found out that I entered corporate America, and I found out what it could be like if a job challenged you, right? And that was amazing. So I definitely I would like to live to work. But at the very least, I need to work to live.
Now, what is it that opened up your eyes? Like, what happened?
Well, it's just I came across sort of challenges and things like that, like business process improvement and things, and increasing efficiency through automation and stuff like that I had never had the chance to do before because I had never come across pre-existing entrenched systems that were already set up.
Right.
Previously, I was always the one building them, and all the tools weren't there for me to be like, oh, well, can I do this? Well, yes, because our company has spent $100 million on software.
X amount of large money.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so the tools are available if you know who to talk to, and stuff like that. So.
Okay. So through automation, you kind of notice, like, holy crap, this has been challenging and rewarding, and I would like to get to a point.
I would like to do this for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like my goal is, and I say this without any hyperbole, is to automate myself out of a job one day.
Okay.
And a lot of people will be like, well, then you wouldn't have a job. I'm like, well, first of all, then you just put on your resume that automated yourself out of a job and you can write your own ticket.
Yeah, get another job.
Yeah, probably for twice as much, right?
Yeah.
As you were making before. And plus, like, I think that's like the ultimate challenge. So all of that to say, at the very least, I need to work to live, but that means that what I am making while I am working to live has to be significantly higher because I'm going to be compensating outside of work for my lack of challenge and stuff like that.
Okay.
In work.
But you do understand the thought that, because I've been told, you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nice sentiment and it's cute.
Yeah.
And put it on a bumper sticker in some hippie's car. But the truth is, you have to work.
Yeah.
You have to do things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That you have to
make
take
the hard
risks.
choices.
You
Yeah.
have to make hard choices.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to spend a little extra money. Sometimes you got to, invest in something that's tough and it's a struggle in order to not be complacent.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I agree, because, if you blind yourself to the small stuff, you end up falling down. If you blind yourself to the rabbit holes, you might fall in a tiger trap or something like that.
Is that a thing?
Tiger traps?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the pits that are covered over with like fronds and stuff like that, and they've got sharpened bamboo at the bottom.
Oh, so it's like Mortal Kombat. You can uppercut a
Yeah,
tiger
yeah.
into the pit.
Yeah. There
Okay.
You go. Yeah, there you go. The idea is the tiger steps on it because it looks like normal ground and it falls in and gets stabbed and then slowly bleeds out and dies.
So why do they do that to tigers?
Because it's way safer than hunting them.
Okay. So is there overpopulation of tigers somewhere?
Not anymore.
Because of these pits.
Yeah. No, it also saw a lot of use in like the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, jungle warfare.
Yeah, guerrilla warfare with actual gorillas.
Probably not.
Gorillas versus tigers.
It's not necessarily used on tigers, but it is called a tiger trap.
Okay.
Just like a bear trap is not necessarily used on bears.
But does it work on gorillas?
Yes, it would have. Because
Okay.
gorillas, believe it or not, are still subject to gravity.
Okay. Excellent. That's
Despite being the majestic creatures that they are still subject to gravity.
okay. Yeah, I was told that one time that you get a job you love and you won't work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just being cynical.
It's a cute statement.
Yeah, it is. It is cute.
But it doesn't work. So like, I view having a job you love that like challenges you as like going on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And adventures are not always fun. In fact, I think that if you talk to people who actually had adventures, there's a scene in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon where the princess is talking to...
Does the hidden dragon fall in a pit?
No.
Okay. But the crouching tiger did though.
No.
Okay.
The princess is talking to our heroine, right? Our leading lady, and she says, "Oh, this woman is an adventurer who has had books written about her. The bards love her."
Okay.
And the princess is like, "Well, I've read all your books. I've read all your adventures, and like it's amazing. Like I want to go on an adventure. Like I want to be like you." And
no, you don't.
The leading lady is like, well, if they wrote about how it actually was, they probably wouldn't sell that many books.
It's all glorified, but truth is, it's just a bunch of shitting in the woods.
Exactly. Yeah,
trying not
I
to
think
die.
that's basically what she says. Like, you go months without bathing and stuff like that. So again, so like I went with a friend of mine. We went on a road trip that we hit 14 cities in 11 days.
Okay.
And we drove the whole way, and we stayed in an apartment in Denver, like once, right? The rest of it we were sleeping in the car. And so at no point do I think it would really be called a fun experience, but it was 100% worth it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Right? And so that's sort of when I you get a job that you love. Like that's what that is.
The ends justify the means.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because it's tough to get through it, but you...
Yeah,
overall,
but that's why you're there. It's what you
Yeah.
signed up for,
Yeah.
and like it's thrilling, but fun and thrilling don't have to be the same thing.
Okay, well that I didn't know.
Yeah,
How is something thrilling and not fun?
it has to be exciting,
Exciting.
right?
See, I always kind of
Suspense
translate...
is exciting, right?
But it's not fun to be suspended?
It's usually fun after the fact.
Okay.
It's not fun during it happening. Sometimes it is, but not necessarily always. It's sort of like fighting a dragon. Nobody wants to fight a dragon.
Well,
You'd have to be a moron to want to fight a dragon.
get some killer loot though.
Yeah. And it ends up being all worth it, but it was certainly a harrowing experience.
Okay.
It's
a funny analogy. Well, one thing that I did, some sort of introspection that happened to me when I was being an introspection.
Yeah. Okay. I think Randy is.
Yes.
An
So
introspection.
I went. I was at the time I was repairing cell phones and needed to make more money because I wasn't able to live the life that I wanted to live on what I was making at the time, and so I took a risk and I switched to sales. And I tore it up. Like I said this earlier, but I dominated, and it kind of made me realize that I kind of have a knack and a lot of enjoyment out of working with people.
Yeah.
Whereas before I worked at a room with no windows and just hashed out cell phone repairs.
Yeah.
To a point where I'm shaking hands and meeting people all day, every day, and it's like completely different. But it's not something I ever thought I'd want to do, and then it turns out it's actually kind of awesome. And I used the skills that I developed in doing that, and then working other sales jobs over my life to be able to have conversations with strangers, to be able to have very fluid conversations on, let's say, a podcast. But these are skills that I had developed through taking a risk.
Right.
And I get a lot of fulfillment from having these conversations and from having had the conversations that I've had that I wouldn't have had I just said, you know what, we're struggling, but it's good.
Yeah, I don't want to take that risk. Like, you don't want to, you would have had, you've come up with a lot of excuses, and you probably would have been a little bit afraid, you know what I mean? Like, I could screw it up. I could be really bad at sales.
Yeah. Which happens
like
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just the same idea, is that you kind of got to look at yourself. Now, something you mentioned earlier in the episode was looking at yourself in the mirror and being honest with yourself of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you're being honest with yourself, you genuinely don't like yourself, but that's not what is. That's just how you see yourself.
Right. And so it's not a bad thing if you don't like yourself, right? Because if you realize that you don't like as long as you know why you don't like yourself, right? Lion's share of the things, almost 100% of the things that you don't like can be changed.
Okay.
As long as they're not like strict genetic stuff, right? If they're like personality or like cultural or something like that, like those, we don't like to talk about personalities being able to be deliberately changed, but they absolutely are. Yeah.
Sure.
So again, like I don't think that looking in the mirror and you like genuinely, I don't expect everyone to look in their mental mirror and like not like themselves and like themselves.
Yeah, but you gotta be critical
certainly,
of yourself.
Certainly, yeah. And so if there are things you don't like, then if you are not complacent,
you'll want to change.
You should consider how these things can be changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I went to the gym.
I mean, nothing and no one changes if everything is okay, right? It is only when things are bad or not as good as they could be,
right, that
we take the risks to make things better.
Yeah.
And so that is what complacency is that everything is okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little 20 pounds overweight,
bad, but it's okay.
Yeah, I'll survive.
Whatever. And then 20 pounds becomes 25 and 30 becomes 35.
I know it.
yeah. And before you know it, you're 250 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And your doctor's like, you really need to cut back, and you're like, it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I want to live life the way that I want to live my life.
Yeah, exactly. And while I understand like the importance of dignity and wanting to do that, just don't be surprised when you have a heart attack at age 40
and die.
Yeah. You were warned.
Yeah, you've been warned. And if you want to go out at 40 or 50, then
that's one of the very literal ways complacency can be dangerous.
Weight.
Yeah, is weight or like healthy habits.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
Like what kind of healthy habit besides overeating or going out to eat? Because that's financially is also taxing.
Yes. Drinking. Okay. I'm fine. I can control it. Or it's Friday. Like I can do what I want. You know what I mean?
That's
like
a thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or I'm just blowing off steam. Which can then turn into driving drunk. Right, which is dangerous on the whole. I can do it,
We've all said it.
Yeah. And so it's just stuff like that, like it's just heroin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
people
going crazy with it.
People who say that it's really bad. They don't know.
Right.
I'm fine. My body can handle it.
No, I've heard that argument used for marijuana though, and people saying like it's not as bad as people say. My body can handle it, but they're not necessarily invalid arguments.
Well, one of the good counter arguments to that is, how do you know what you're smoking is marijuana? And unless you live in a state like Colorado, where you get it from like licensed vendors and stuff like that,
right?
You don't. It might be some portion marijuana to give just enough so that it doesn't, nothing seems odd. But
the rest
again,
of it might be tree moss or something.
Exactly. Or
rat poison.
Well, no, and so like the wild marijuana farms in like the heartland of the U.S., stuff like that. There's no regulation on how they do that farming, and so they used like do use an obscene amount of pesticides on them. They don't clean them after they're done with them, and it's also soaking into the plants themselves. So when you smoke it, that's all going into you, right? So there's that too, because it's unregulated. So there is that danger, and nobody talks about it.
I never even knew that.
It's really hard to complacency away, also. I know my guy. He wouldn't give me anything like that. Well, it's not him, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or maybe anybody under a dire enough situation will fuck over their friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that goes across the board. Everyone needs what is the words of Colin Farrell from the movie Pride and Glory? He says it's my girls, and after that it's every swinging dick for himself. He was talking about his wife and kid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's how I say most people would operate. Yeah, they'll help you if they can, but otherwise they're family.
One. Yeah.
They're family than themselves, and sometimes themselves and then their family.
Yeah. So you can't rely on that. So that's just like, that's a dangerous habit. Like cigarettes, Just like
Ooh, that's a good one.
mundane cigarettes. Like it's you feel like you're gonna live forever. You're complacent. Like, oh well, I've lived every day before this, so without cancer or emphysema or
Right.
whatever.
What do you think the psychology is behind someone that smokes cigarettes?
So there's definitely, if we use there's physical addiction. Like nicotine is incredibly addictive. Like we just had an whole episode about physical addiction isn't a thing, but dependency is, right? I think it's reasonable to say that even if physical addiction is not a thing, there are chemical processes, like we'll call it chemical bonding, like bonding
Okay.
dependency. That's good. Bonding dependency. And so nicotine is like the nastiest chemical for that, as far as being addictive, because not only is it just that way, but also like you're taking it in every day, like nonstop, basically. Like I've had relatives who went to the hospital for heart problems due to smoking or an emphysema and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I've had relatives die from
Yeah,
it.
and then they've caught this person smoking in the bathroom. Like you were literally in the hospital, you almost died. That's why you're in the hospital,
Right.
Because of this thing.
Yeah, it's weird, man, because there's so much media against smoking. I mean, since we were kids, and it's only gotten more and more strict to the point that like you can't smoke in certain parking lots anymore.
Yeah,
And
Florida's a clean air state.
It's become very difficult for smokers. Yet,
to keep doing it.
why do
Have you
people
seen
still
the
smoke
price
them?
of cigarettes?
It's insane. And
I
why,
don't know
why
how people
is it,
afford it.
Why is it usually the poor that are buying cigarettes?
I think it's just because it's the poor that's buying cigarettes at gas stations.
Okay, because that's the only time I ever see it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So maybe that's my bias.
Also, the rich can afford to buy cartons at a time,
Okay.
right? And so if you don't see them like the once a month that they go and buy cigarettes,
Okay.
you'll never see them.
What makes a person knowing the harm and the science behind this make them keep doing it?
It's not a logical thing to do in the first place, right? Like if it was if irrationality entered into the process of smoking cigarettes, no one would do it,
Right.
right? But people pick it up usually for social reasons, like because someone you know or care about or whatever does it, or you want to be one of the cool kids.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, smoking is pretty cool.
Well, like it looks really cool,
Yeah.
and but it's also like there are two things that feature majorly in human psychology. That's death and sex, and smoking is inherently deadly. We know that, right? We all know that more and more.
And you can put them off on your girlfriend when you're having sex with her.
No, only if she asks for it.
Okay, but she's got to ask.
She
Okay.
has to be into it. So, and then but our culture has associated cigarettes. That's why you said it's cool.
Yeah,
Right.
it's sexy.
So it's sexy.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got this toxic combination of the things that feature.
Deadly and sexy.
Yeah. Features
Crazy.
in the. Yeah.
Okay,
like
and you
so-
think that's what keeps people complacent in doing it?
Well, I think
Despite
it is the
everyone telling them otherwise.
It is the chemical dependency, the bonding dependency, the idea that through induction, right, which is I've already seen this stuff, and so I'm going to draw all of my conclusions off what I have already experienced. They have never had a problem in their life due to smoking before.
That's a dumb anecdotal evidence thing.
Super
so-
dumb, but
so
that's how
stupid.
science works. Also, all science is based on deduction.
Yeah, but it requires more than just one example
Correct.
and has to test for variables.
Right, and see, if you smoke, you probably have lots of friends who smoke too, who also haven't had
they're
medical
not dead.
problems. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They're not dead or have cancer or anything.
Right.
Because if someone because people who do have like really bad stuff are either in the hospital or like they don't hang out with smokers anymore because they either learned their lesson or they're dead.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying not only is it the poor people that buy cigarettes at gas stations, but for people who, because I've worked some low-income jobs before in my life, and the majority of the people that work there at the time were smokers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked less low-income jobs,
Yeah.
and there's
I
very
can't
few
imagine.
smokers.
Yeah, like there are people like who I know make the same amount of money that I do and smoke. Like they take 2 or 3 smoke breaks a day, and I'm like, how do you afford that?
All right.
Like, how do you do that?
Where you hiding your money, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know your wife doesn't work.
So-
Like she's a stay-at-home mom, so I don't know how you're doing it.
Yeah. That's insane. That's a good idea, because I know people who make just a little bit over minimum wage that smoke like a chimney,
Yeah. Yeah.
How are they able to afford, obviously, rent, but how are they able to afford their rent or their livelihood or even just to survive if they're spending, $5 a day on cigarettes, $5 a day. They're like, oh, well, it's the price of a coffee. A lot of people use that at Starbucks. But $5 a day, 7 days a week,
Most
35.
people don't have a Starbucks coffee every single day. And if they do, they can afford it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, even if I could afford it, I don't know if I'd ever go to Starbucks.
Well,
it's
pick
so
a place.
much money.
Dunkin' Donuts, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
pick,
yeah.
Pick some place that right now is a luxury to stop off at. But if you could stop by there every day, like Chipotle or something.
Yeah, now that's something different.
Yeah.
Like food.
That would also not be healthy for you.
Yeah. I got a buddy that's on a diet, and he's like, oh, Chipotle's good, man, because it's got lots of protein, and if you just don't put the cheese... I'm like,
That's what
fucking
crave.
fad diets, man. They really frustrate me so much.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, it is.
So
anyways, I think we covered a lot
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far
yeah,
as
I
the
think that's
identity stagnation, to be
Yeah.
to be comfortable to the point of not changing the flaws about yourself
Yeah.
and bettering your life.
And if any of you out there in podcast land have additional questions for clarification and stuff like that, put them on the Patreon page. Like, we've got that. We're working on forums, but right now you can definitely post on the Patreon page, and we'll pick a couple and we'll give you some answers.
We'll talk about
Yeah, we'll talk to you.
Awesome. Anyways, this has been
What we talked about.